Anna, you play in the syndication space, you play in the big multifamily area. You have experience that I simply do not have. We have talked about that part of the economy or that part of the investing landscape in some trouble. I want to catch you up on a conversation I had with Nuvo Capital Partners, specifically Brian Underdahl, and likely will be their CEO, Stuart, here shortly, because of an article out of The Real Deal. So, A, have you heard of The Real Deal? And B, have you heard of Nuvo Capital Partners?
Yes and yes.
Awesome. So, in The Real Deal, it was about 2 weeks ago, they wrote up a rather lengthy article about all of the gurus in the multifamily space, basically selling courses and this, that, and the other thing. At the very end of the article, they brought in Brian Underdahl from Nuvo Capital Partners to basically talk about picking up the pieces, right? There's a lot of
Yes.
pain from the short-term debt, bad assumptions, bad investments, all of this. And what got my attention, and thankfully Brian said yes to the interview, was he talked about evaluating $500 million in deals.
Yes.
And in his estimation, only 100 million of those are savable,
Wow.
meaning the other 400 million are toast. And I just had to talk to him. We had the conversation yesterday. I'll catch you up on that. But how does that feel when you hear that number, 100 million savable out of the first 500 he's looked at?
I don't think it's quite as dire as that, and I'll tell you why. I do want to
Sure.
hear what he has to say, because I could be wrong, but I will tell you this: the number of deals that were bought between 2020, late 2020, and mid 2022, the vast majority of them were done with bridge debt, and
Yep.
so those loans basically were 2 to 3 years, some with up to 2 1-year extensions. And so if you just look at the fact that these bridge loans are variable rate loans, almost all of them, and they are coming due now and into next year. And if they get extended, one or two times, maybe some in 2025 and 2026. If you look at their debt service payments jumping and doubling from where they were, because rates literally in the commercial world have gone from like 4 to about 8, and give or take, depending on, the deal and the risk and all of that. But literally you've doubled your debt payments. And so we talked a little bit about this last week, and in my article, where that is really basically put net operating income insufficient to cover your debt, and therefore they can't make debt payments and they're having to figure out what to do. So one is, can they save foreclosure and having to give the keys back to the bank like so many of these, big headline making deals have done? And the answer is yes, some of them can be saved, but they have to do a couple of things. Either they sell. The question is, can they sell them for as much as they thought they could? Absolutely no. Can they sell them for the amount of the debt? If you said no, they can't, then you would say yes, 1 in 5 basically is savable. But the reality is there are groups, PE groups, that come in and will save deals and take over, most of the operator's equity. There are lenders who are willing to extend as long as they can make the debt payment, because they don't want all of these on their books either, because then they have to write off the asset, which makes their balance sheet unstable and could put those lenders into insolvency as well, and these banks, and they don't want that. So I think that there will be more banks and more groups that are at least willing, if you can make the debt payments, to extend and pretend for a little bit and to keep these deals from completely falling apart. So I don't think it's only 1 in 5 that are savable. I think you'll have more than that. I would say maybe 2 out of 4 are savable. So I'm more at the 50% mark. And you can also make capital calls where you ask your investors to pay more in. I'm invested in a deal that just had a capital call, but that I know can be saved. And so I'm going to, put a little bit more money in that deal to keep us being able to make those debt payments with the lender that's willing to do that. So